we know about the soundtrack, we know about Pac, we know about the characters. Even if I've heard multiple ideas of a reboot, which I hope doesn't happen
Sounds
because
awful.
I don't think
Sounds
that
bad.
I really don't want that. What do you guys think? How has this stood the test of time? Is it the fact that Pac, it was a huge role for Pac, the soundtrack was so cold, or was the movie just that dope with the cameos and the soundtrack and Pac? Was it cumulative, or because Pac is really the face of this movie? Let's be clear. Like that's what
It's interchangeable.
It is an ensemble. I mean, because Omar Epps went on to do a lot.
Yeah, he did.
he did. That's fair.
And so did, and shout out to
Crazy
Khalil
cameos.
Kane.
Yeah,
Who went on to be
girlfriends.
He went on to have a really kind of dope career. He played Tiger Woods in the Tiger Woods story, when Tiger Woods had just won the Masters. That was kind of crazy.
I missed that one. I don't know
you
about
had to
that
really,
one.
it's one of those things you don't see often. But I remember he did do that.
Michael Jackson. Well, we ain't gonna talk about that.
Yeah, no, let's leave that alone.
When I say Pac, I'm not trying to diminish them. I'm just saying he's the.
It
face
was Pac.
of it.
It was
he's the face
Tupac.
of Juice.
I wouldn't necessarily say he was the face of Juice, but
I think he's the face.
He was the most recognizable character at the time. Because out of that cast, the only other person you had seen before was Steel.
Yeah,
True.
And Steel was in Lean on Me. Everybody else you never seen him before, but Tupac, you knew him from rap.
Yep.
And I mean, it was a hip hop movie.
Yep.
Essentially, I mean, Q was a DJ. The sound, I mean, they was buying records, skipping school. I'm not saying that skipping school was hip hop, but I mean,
That soundtrack,
they
though.
were culturally hip hop kids
Yeah.
that just came up kind of rough and
When did it drop?
93.
The 4?
It's 30 years, so we're talking about 92.
Oh, wow.
92, okay.
So this was before my time. So I don't even reference it. And like I watched Juice way after the fact.
But you associated with Pac. First thing comes to mind.
First thing
right?
comes to me is Tupac and Omar Epps because Omar
it's
Epps
not
is in
Pac's
everything.
first movie.
No, it's not.
But
Do anybody just for
I can't name it. I'll be honest with you.
it's he didn't have a speaking role, but he was in a movie with Dan
I know.
Aykroyd,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
and Chevy Chase and Demi Moore. It was called Nothing But
Nothing
Trouble.
but trouble. Yep.
Oh, I forgot
Because
about that.
that's where
movie.
the same
Digital
song.
Underground.
Yeah, same
Same
song
song.
is
Yeah.
from that movie. That's the most because it's not a great movie.
was that the one with?
They had like a
No,
lot
I'm
of
thinking of Changing
prosthetic
Places. Never
faces
mind.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that movie.
Yeah.
And that's one of y'all jump in the comments.
Tupac was actually in that movie.
Yeah, he
That's one of his best verses to me.
But back to my point, like I have no reference of like the Juice soundtrack or how important it is. I have no reference of how important Juice was when it came out for hip hop or anything like that. I mean, I know the movie and I've seen it, but what jumps out to me is definitely just Tupac. It's like Tupac and Omar Epps, and I remember the DJ story and all that stuff. But
Queen Latifah's in the movie.
Yeah. Samuel L. Jackson, crazy cameos.
EPMD is in the movie.
Yeah, they in the bar with Blizzard.
Yep.
so let me ask you this: why? This may sound like a stupid question, but I just want to go into more detail. Why is this so culturally significant?
I mean, at the time, it was when a lot of dope black movies were getting made. So this was when Menace to Society, Boys in the Hood, South Central, New Jack City. It was around a time where it was kind of like a black renaissance as far as Hollywood was concerned, with movies being produced and inclusion. So us coming up, when that movie was out, I was in junior high school. So that related to me directly, and a lot of people that I knew and that were growing up at the same time. I think personally that's why.
And you see in the movies that he named, you see the cross promotion. You see MC8 in Menace to Society. You see Cube in Boys in the Hood, Pac and Juice with the hip hop thing. You know, some of these guys started to do more acting, especially with Cube. Like that sent him through the roof. Boys in the Hood.
He Cube Vision.
Cube Vision. Yeah.
So how integral was like the hip hop element of these movies, though?
Well, this is the thing.
Oh,
We
go ahead.
are, for especially for anybody who's really younger who's listening. You didn't get hip hop was still something you got excited anytime you were able to get a little piece of it. Right. There were really no hip hop radio stations. We had Yo MTV Raps, we had Rap City, but you know, there was still this thing where, you know, it was like, should we put rap in movies? You know, what are we gonna do with this? And
you get rap in movie because they would just rated R.
But also this was about young people as well. You know, I think the story, as much as it's, you know, we talk about the integration of having hip hop and Pac was in it, but you know, Pac wasn't Pac yet. You know, he wasn't Pac.
Essentially, this is the road that
like honestly
put him over
the role in this movie is what drove his first album to be more popular than it probably would have been.
Right.
And you gotta understand, we're still not that far out of the 80s to where, you know, if you weren't Eddie Murphy, I remember like Robert Townsend, actually when he was trying to get Hollywood Shuffle made, and he was talking to his agent, and he said, I want to do this, and he said, Robert, you were in A Soldier Story. They already did a black movie this year. Like, and that's how Hollywood thought. So honestly, we were still at a place like to where we were excited to see anybody black in a movie that wasn't like a background character or the janitor or like the sassy black friend. Like, people think that was, you know, now there's all these outlets for diversity and talent. We could tell these stories. It wasn't like that just 30 years ago. So it was a big deal just on that, but it was actually a good movie. And also, it's funny, and I brought this up before, but I think it was always in the pre-show. This is something I noticed in Juice that, you know, like they were being chased by truant officers.
Yes.
In New York. Okay. And you got to understand, you can legally just drop out of school at 16, which means the characters in the movie were at oldest 15. Okay, so now you think about it, it's like, oh, that's because when I saw it, I was younger than them or around the same age, and I ain't trip off it.
I was young.
But this is the part you really got to trip off of that nobody said anything about at the time. Q, Omar Epps' character, you know, had a girlfriend that was sure enough grown.
I'm talking about grown. Grown.
Yeah, like had a whole ex-husband and a career.
Grown.
And he was going over there, you know, smoking madism and laid up with her. I was like, I'm sorry, but Yolanda was the biggest criminal in that movie. Yeah. You know, it's something I didn't think about when I watched Juice with my mom. Right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because like the only places Juice was playing in St. Louis when I was coming up were movie theaters known for violence. So I didn't get to go and experience it in the movie theater. So like my mom was cool, and I got to rent it from Blockbuster, just, you know, callback. And I remember sitting there watching it with, of all things, I remember watching Juice with my mom, but and the thing is, she didn't trip off of it, and I didn't trip off of it, but like, I'm like, this is child abuse that we deal with
I
here.
100% did not see it that way.
And, but then I'm thinking also, as if I was 15, I was thinking, man, this dude is a DJ. He got an older girlfriend.
That's what I saw.
Man. You want to talk about having the juice? He didn't have to shoot nobody in the rob store to have the juice. He had the juice.
I was
already.
like, Q winning. That's what I saw.
I was like,
he was winning, but I'll tell you one thing. It was the exact opposite when I was in high school. It was all the older dudes coming to pick up all the younger girls on bars and Vogues from school.
Well, no, I mean,
and
like,
it's crazy how we would be mad about it, but we didn't look at it like these cats are molesters.
These are criminals.
Yeah, that was literally molesters.
No, just like when we talked about Robert and all his foolishness. Like, but I remember talking to some lady friends of mine. I said, look, didn't y'all all have older boyfriends and like they was out there buying you Penny Hardaways and taking you to
Dooney and Burke's?
Yeah, and taking you to Red
Penny
Lobster.
Hardaways cost back then, they cost now.
Exactly, because you had an older dude who was already working because he was an adult who could go out and buy you all this stuff, but you didn't think it was wrong then. But when you out here judging Robert, and he should be judged. I'm not trying to make 100%, but like you talk to that your homegirls who was fine in high school. They didn't mess with high school dudes.
Nah, they didn't.
Along and to
bars and Vogues.
To what you were talking about,
some dude who had a Blazer or 5.0 was coming up to the school picking them up from cheerleading practice.
A Delta 88 with bangs in the trunk.
The soundtracks though, each and every one of those movies had good soundtracks.
Well, soundtracks were important back then.
They were very important.
It was a marketing tool.
I'll give you a prime example. When I hear the song "Just Me and You" from Tony, I think "Boys in the Hood."
Yeah.
Now that's random, but that was the joint that was playing when Ricky was in the locker room or something like that. But my mind goes back to that moment whenever I hear
part where he was like, well, I ain't ready for all that yet.
Yes, there we go. Right. So it's just the music tied together so well with those movies, and to his point, it was the soundtrack era.
Yeah.
So we really
it was also
to rock out.
We're talking about those directors that somebody like John Singleton, Spike Lee. They were influenced by music videos. Like you could
they were fresh out of college.
If you look at those specific scenes. If you cut them up, they could just be the music. They could be the music video for that particular song.
Yeah,
there was an aesthetic that was being established then through the MTV / I'll say BT generation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To where that's why a lot of these people who directed these movies also still did music videos. Spike still did Hip Hop Array.
Right.
When My Homies Call was done by John Singleton.
Rest in peace, John Singleton too, man.
So it was a situation to where that aesthetic, was very new at the time, as far as the music video and the way things were cut. But I still see it now.